Hello everyone, welcome back to another Jaguars React. Sorry for the lateness of this vid, had some stuff going on the last couple days, so I didn't have a chance to really make a proper react right after the game. Another London game for the Jags, becoming the first NFL team to go overseas, back-to-back weeks playing London, and what a fruitful endeavor it was for the Jags as they went 2-0 on the road trip, upsetting the high-powered Buffalo Bills 25-20, kind of an odd score at that. And this game was an interesting one. um, the Jags offensively look like a lot of what we expected coming into the season, at least stats-wise, because they had some bad moments too, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, you look at the team stats, they had nearly 500 yards of total offense, 474 to be exact. They ran the ball well, 196 rushing yards on 40 attempts. They ran 82 plays in this game, and they had 278 yards passing, although a lot of that was taken away from 5 sacks they let up. We'll talk about that too. Trevor Lawrence had a nice game, 25 for 37, 315 and a TD, 2 lost fumbles. That's not so good. I don't want to get into the bad stuff right now. I want to talk just playing good. A huge upset victory, but a game that, despite the score, was a Jaguars domination, in my opinion. The stats more or less suggest that, and yeah, I mean, if you watch a game, it felt like the Jags had the Bills' number in this game, and some of that might be because the Jags were in London, we're used to it, and the Bills weren't, and I think there is something to that because the Bills never looked right in this game. They seemed like they were sleepwalking. I heard some people say it just didn't seem like what you've seen the last few weeks for Buffalo. So if that's an excuse you want to use, I think there's some validity to that. But that's a problem, though. You're playing a good team like Jacksonville. Jacksonville's going to take advantage of that. And for the most part, they did. Again, the total yards of 474 to 388. Total plays 82 to 54. The Jags just dominate time possession. 38 minutes of time possession as well. The Jags, for the first time all year, were great on third down, 10 for 18. And last couple drives were fantastic. The long killer drives that Jaguars have, and they did a lot last year, that killer instinct drive to end games. Oh, man, they had 2 of those late in the game that ended in touchdowns. Despite the fact that we went touchdown, it was the long drawn out plays, and even the fumble drive was a 17-play drive that took over 8 minutes off the clock. Yes, it was unfortunately a bit of a unfortunate red zone turnover, but the next drive they had 10 plays, 93 yards in just over 5 minutes, and then they had the 5-play 75 where they went only a minute 7, and there's an argument made that maybe Etienne shouldn't have scored. I think there was too much time on the clock to do that at that point in the game. It was still only a 5-point game, and if you fuck up and don't score, then it becomes only a 1-possession game. And I don't know if I'm too much of a fan of that thought in the moment that they were in. I know they would waste a lot of clock, but whoa, sorry about that. I thought that was muted. Of course, I say that, and it should be stressed that the Bills scored in 45 seconds the very next drive. So nonetheless, but Etienne having a monstrous game in this game, especially in the second half, but overall 26 carries for 136 yards and 2 rushing TDs. He also added 4 catches of 48 yards. It seemed like they started getting him on the outside, and that's really where he did his work, although the middle was starting to open up. Bills defense got tired, and injuries were starting to pile up as well. You hope Matt Milano, and it looks like he's out for the year. That is unfortunate, and they lost a couple other guys in that game as well. But their D-line wrecked the offensive line for the Jags. They didn't get much going early, and they sacked Trevor Lawrence 5 times and put him under duress a lot. But Trevor did make use of his legs with 7 carries and 31 yards in this game. A lot of those were on scrambles. Calvin Ridley, after a couple of games, he ended up going for 7 for 122, did not have a TD, but was a hell of an outlet for Trevor Lawrence and made some key receptions in this game. And it felt weird to watch that. It's still weird to see Jacksonville make the plays that good teams make to put away games, and they did this in the second half especially. Even though there was some unforced errors and some almost catastrophic errors, but it seemed like when they needed to play Trevor, Calvin, Etienne, their big three there, and Christian Kirk too. You can throw him in there, and Evan Ingram played great. Had decent. He only had 4.8, but he made a couple critical catches. The big three really stepped up in this game, and it was good to see. I mentioned the Jags were 10 of 18 on third downs, spectacular on third downs for a change. And Bills went 5-12. That's not great for a defense, but that's not bad either. The story of this, one of the biggest stories of this game, though, was penalties. Just accepted penalties was 19 between the two teams. Buffalo had over 100 accepted yards. The Jags had 8 for 56. That was a major difference in this game. These two teams were sloppy, especially Buffalo. And that's why I said in the beginning, if you're on the side of, the Bills were not this or that, it's actually hard to argue that. I don't disagree with you to some extent. I still think you got to go and win the game, but let's talk a little negative here. I mentioned the offensive line. The offensive line got destroyed by the Bills' D-line. Again, giving up 5 sacks. Could have been more than that. And just the D-line was making plays all over the place. The D-line almost single-handedly kept the Bills in this game and kept this game from being an absolute blowout. Josh Allen had 359 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. The Jags played well defensively, except for those 3 drives, if I'm being honest with you. And one was right at the end of the half. And was it at the end of the half? Yeah, it was at the end of the half. Right before the Jags got it. The Bills' true final drive, and they woke up and just drove down the field. And then the Jags had another drive, which we'll talk about. And then played great, and then when they needed to, Buffalo's offense was able to produce 2 touchdown drives. Unfortunately for them, a bit too late for them. Their slow start really hurt them. But nonetheless, the Jags won. But man, they made 2 critical errors in the Bills' red zone. This game could have been much more lopsided, and 2 sack fumbles on Trevor Lawrence, and I would say one was his fault, one wasn't. One that Espinoza, I think it was Espinoza, just came in and just, perfect technique, and it was super quick. Not a lot you can do as a quarterback. You'd like to see him step up and feel that pressure maybe a little bit, but it was a great play by the D. And the next one, he tried doing too much, got sacked, got the ball knocked out. That was on him. I will say one of the 2 was for sure on him. But either way, 2 killer turnovers that could have easily changed the game. One was at the end of the half as the Jags were driving and could have put this game at the very least, a 7-point game. It was 11-7 at that point, but a touchdown makes it a 18-7 game. But at the very least, a field goal, because it was 3rd and 2, would make it, at the very least, would have made it a full touchdown game. And then late in the game, or in the third quarter, that 17-play monstrous 63-yard, 8-minute and 7-second drive ended on another 3rd down fumble. This one caused by Ed Oliver, and unfortunately I guess it was called by Johnson. Either way, it was Ed Oliver got the sack, and then another guy came in, forced it. That was Trevor Lawrence trying to do too much. If he just takes a sack there, you have about long, but in the 40, you got a good kicker in Brandon McMath. You can make that field goal at that point. That also could have made it a 14-7 I'll be honest, when that one happened, that was right when the second play of the third quarter or the fourth quarter, I went, fuck, Buffalo's gonna win this game. But then Josh Allen promptly threw his interception, which was more or less a lot of people are like, oh well, it's basically a punt. He took a deep ball to It was 3rd and 15, and they got the ball at the Jags 7, which is fair. I think there's a fairness to that, but he had things open, and he ended up underthrowing that ball. If he saw it earlier, I think he had it, but the Jags responded beautifully with a 10-play, 93 yards. Oh man, that was a great drive. ETN was huge on this drive. He just was amazing. The first play of the drive from the 7, they hit Calvin Ridley on the right side for 20 yards. And then they scrambled, and Etienne had a couple of nice plays.
What does it mean to
They got sacked.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
They had defensive pass interference call.
We'll get there.
And then Etienne on the final 3 plays went 10, 11, and then 6 plays for the final touchdown, or not the final touchdown, for the final play for the touchdown. But to the Bills' credit, they came right back in 3 minutes 41 seconds and scored again. This time Gabe Davis after back-to-back plays, and then the Jags just said, "Screw it, boom, we're gonna do it again." And then they, on 3rd and 4, they did almost a similar. They've seen this play 3 or 4 times this game to Calvin Ridley. It felt like it looked like just a streak up the right side, and he ended up being open on key plays, and hit him for 32 in the middle of that drive. And then Etienne blitzed off the 35-yard run at the end there for the touchdown to make it 25-13. But again, the Bills scored in 45 seconds. The Jags went 3 and out, but the Bills had no time out, so they were able to take off 1:50 off the clock. And then the Bills tried to do a little hook and ladder thing, and didn't work out at all for them, and ended the game 25-20. The Jags upset the Bills. So, okay, we're through week 5 now. If you told me the Jags were at 3-2 after the first 5 games, I would have told you that made sense. Maybe not the way they got there, because they lost to Houston. But losing to Kansas City, I would have thought Buffalo could have been a loss. So I would be very happy with where they're at right now. They're technically in first place. They're tied with the Colts, who are better than expected, along with Houston as well. So I got to give the Colts credit there. Speaking of next week, the Jags have a huge game, the second game of the season against the Colts already. Remember, that was a tight game until Etienne took it over late, and so the Jags, this time at home after 2 London games, it's gonna be I think that's gonna be a tough game, and the Jags really gotta make sure they're up for that game, even though it looks like Minshew's gonna start, which is another bit of irony. Minshew's coming back and starting in Jacksonville. Lost his job too, Trevor Lawrence, ultimately. So that's where we're at now in the standings. The AFC South is tight right now. We're 5 weeks in, and all teams are at 2-3 or 3-2. Indy and Houston look way better than everyone thought they would be. Houston's got the best point differential in the AFC South at plus 15 right now, and CJ Stroud looks like the real deal still. They did lose a little bit of a heartbreaker to Atlanta, showing some of their maybe roster issues in that game. Tennessee just doesn't have an offense right now. They're staying in games, but they just don't have enough offense. And Derrick Henry's just not taking over games like he used to. Outside against Cincinnati, he really just hasn't taken over games. So for Jacksonville, the next few weeks, look, we're in the brutal part of the schedule now. It's only gonna get tougher from here. We do have the Colts next week, and then we have a Thursday nighter against the Saints. This is a weird turnaround here, folks. There's no bye here after the London games, which is honestly kind of unfortunate, because you got the Colts, and then you immediately got a Thursday night game against the Saints, who may not have a good offense, but have a really good defense. Then you travel to Pittsburgh, and oh god, I'm not looking forward to that one with the TJ Watt stuff. Then you got the Niners at home. I don't know if you've seen the Niners lately, folks. They look good. Then you got the Titans, then you travel to Houston again. You got the Bengals. They look better finally. Then they got the Browns, who have a good defense, and the Ravens. Look, folks, the next 8 to 10 weeks ain't going to be pretty. The rest of the season, basically, looking like it's going to be a slog. I still think if the Jags can get 7 more wins in the final 12 weeks, go 7-5, I think the Jags will still win this division and make the playoffs. But it's going to be hard, and that's going to be the tough part. So, first place schedule. That's what you get. And having that Niners game, ooh, it's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. But so far, but again, you told me after the London games we're 3-2. I'd be very happy right now. It's pretty much exactly where I expected them to be record wise. And then if we could beat the Colts and Saints, get to 5-2 before that tough Steelers-Niners stretch, I'd be happy. If we could steal one of those games, even better. Get to 6-3 through 9 games. The good news is after the Steelers is our bye week before the Niners, so that is a solidly placed bye, sort of. Although I would prefer that after the London games. But folks, we are in mid-season mode now, or pretty close to mid-season mode, and the NFL year is getting kind of crazy, as we move on. We got Miami doing Miami things. Buffalo's look good, and then hasn't looked good at times. New England looks like one of the worst teams in the league. Oh, man, do they look like one of the worst teams in the league. They have the second worst point differential in the entire league. Only the Giants have worse. Not even the 0-5 Carolina Panthers. The only winless team in the league is nowhere near the Patriots or my Giants, as the Patriots are 23 points worse currently than the 0-5. Now, grant most of that came in the last 2 games, but man, do they look bad. Cincinnati gets their offense back a little bit last week against Arizona, or this week I should say, getting back to 2-3 as the Ravens lost to Pittsburgh, so don't count them out. It's a bit of a jumbled mess, honestly. We still have a game tonight as of this recording, the Raiders and Packers. The Lions look like the third best team in the NFC right now, and I don't know if it's close. I think you have Niners, Eagles, Lions, and everyone else. Yes, I realize the Buccaneers are 3-1, but I think the Dallas Cowboys just got proved to be frauds a little bit the last couple weeks. Went the loss against Arizona, then they looked okay against the Patriots, and then they got shit stopped by the 49ers. I think we now see where the Cowboys are really at. Eagles are 5-0, but they haven't looked their best. But they still are 5-0. And of course, the Niners are 5-0 in the NFC, or in the AFC. You got Kansas City and Miami at 4-1. Kansas City, no joke. Miami offense looks just almost unstoppable at times. Although the Buffalo did stop them, so we shall see. Folks, the NFL season's, we're hot into it. We still got several weeks left. The Jags are in first place in their division after 5 weeks. This is a positive, so keep that in mind as we move forward throughout the season. Let's go Jags. But that is my react. Until next week, folks, I will see you then. Deuces.